is Kelly Robinson. I'm the Assistant Director in the Center for Career Development, and I'm joined with James Zimmerman, who's the Director of the Dean Rusk International Studies Program. And I've hit record. We are recording this session, the fourth session, final session in our International Job Search series. Today's topic we are talking about is networking. Couple of housekeeping items. I've put in the chat the attendance sheet for you guys to sign in. As I said, I am recording the session, so I will be sending this recording along with any follow-up information to everybody who's in attendance today or who has pre-registered for the event. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to be kind of hopping back and forth. Networking, I feel the topic is something that I have some items that I want to talk about in a PowerPoint with you, but then also just us talking, because that is really what networking is about. So let me go ahead and I'm going to start to share my screen. All right. Slideshow. All right, are we seeing this? Networking basics? Okay. Honestly, the biggest reason why I wanted to show this was just to see a scene from campus, because I haven't been on campus since March. And so this is in the Wall Center. This was an event that we had with actually a retired Olympic athlete who came to talk and did a presentation with students, and then spent some fantastic time afterwards with the students talking one-on-one. And that was a very prime example of networking. But I just wanted to see students on campus, because I'm actually not going to be able to be doing that this fall. I'm excited for all of you coming back, but many elements, including myself, are going to have to be virtual. But so we are talking about networking today. A lot of myths, I think, that exist with regard to networking. And we're going to be, hold on. Okay. What is networking? Networking is not schmoozing. Networking is not a means to an end. Networking is not something that you check off of your list of things that you have done or you have accomplished. Networking is making connections and developing relationships. That is what networking is. Whether it is personal or professional, networking is having conversations and making connections with people. When you turn to professional networking, it is with respect to gathering insider advice about industries or pathways. It's about having conversations with people who are working in areas of interest that you have. The emphasis on networking is that it is about career preparation. Networking is not calling somebody up to say, hey, there's a job that is open at your particular department or organization. I'd like to apply. Can you help me get this job? Networking is not, oh, you do a particular job that I'm interested in. There's a position that's open. Can I pass my resume to you so that you can get me this job? There certainly can be an exchange of information, and there can definitely be an exchange of resumes. But networking, the emphasis is not on asking for a job or an internship or a spot in a graduate program. Networking is developing relationships and just learning about and interacting with people. And I have these particular photos up because the one photo to the left is very much traditional networking. And I feel like in this virtual world, the photo that's more kind of center stage is the type of networking and type of conversations that we might find ourselves having now and in the near future. And so becoming comfortable with virtual networking is a must. We don't want to let this virtual element kind of be a barrier to these professional relationships that we can be developing. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And actually, if you can see, what is your name? What are you doing this summer? What type of work do you do? Care to share any interests? All right. I'd like everybody to go put your video on so we can see all of your smiling faces. And I don't care if you're in jammies. I don't care if you're in t-shirts. Can everybody put on their videos? Hi, Kazid, so that we can see each other. Alex trying to fix his hair. That doesn't matter to me. Hello, everyone. If you're able to connect, obviously, if you are not on video, that is totally fine. I'd like to just talk and have a conversation. Who would like to go first? Rachel?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Kelly. It's nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, where are you from? Are you at where you are from, if that makes any sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm originally from Charlotte, and I am back there currently.
Okay. Where do you live at in Charlotte?
I'm currently living with my family in South Charlotte.
South Charlotte? Okay. All right. So I'm actually up in the Lake Norman area. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, but I've moved down here, I guess about 15 years ago. So yeah. So what are you doing this summer?
Well, right now I'm actually in training for the College Advising Corps.
Okay.
So I've been doing a lot of meetings and trainings on other Zoom rooms.
Yes.
And that starts this August. And I'm also working part-time for a local therapist doing her billings and making sure her insurance claims go through.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, kind of piecing a lot of things together.
Congrats on College Advising Corps. So
thank you.
Can you share with others like what that exactly is, College Advising Corps?
Sure. So it's actually a national service organization that partners with universities across the country to then take recent graduates and place them in certain public high schools, usually in rural or otherwise underserved areas, to kind of be like an assistant guidance counselor. So I will be working with seniors at North Iredell High School to facilitate the like college application process. So everything from like financial aid to explaining what a FAFSA is to figuring out which schools they should apply to that would best fit their interests and needs. So just kind of walking them through that process throughout the year. It's a lot of facilitating events.
Yeah, that sounds like something I would have been interested in, like coming out of college. Because I mean, now that I work in higher ed, so I can see that connection. And you're going to be right up where I am. My kids go to South Iredell High School, so a little bit of a rival there. But that's awesome, very cool. So what are you I'm just kind of curious, like, what are you interested in, like career-wise?
Well, I originally majored in psychology, and I think right now for careers, I'm considering things within like social services or going into a Master of Social Work program to then work in like community centers or possibly NGOs, like anything within that whole realm.
Okay, yeah. Are you looking like in DC, or are you looking in international, or not sure?
Both for long term, but for right now, I'm mainly looking in like North Carolina or just figuring out what grad school I should go to.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, but for a long-term goal. Yes.
Yeah. So who else is interested in NGOs? Anybody? You can raise your hand if you are. Yeah? Kazita is. Okay. All right. So have people heard of College Advising Corps? Okay. All right. Yeah. So where is everybody else calling from? Just shout it out.
Concord.
Concord. Okay. Yeah. So we got another Charlottinian. Is that what they would be called? I don't know. Where else?
Closer.
No, Alec is up in Ohio. Alec's up in Cleveland. So yeah. Alec, are you an Indians fan?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan.
Are you a Brown?
I'm more of a Cavs fan, but
okay. Are you a Browns fan?
I mean, if I have to be, yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, then that works for me because I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm a Steelers fan. We would have had some issues. So
I don't like the Steelers, but I'll
all right, we need to get Alec out of here. So goodbye, Alec. You're done. No, I'm kidding. All right. Yeah. Okay. This is networking. So, I mean, you know, what are some interests that people have? Jane, when you're not on all these 37 different committees that you're serving on and everything, like what do you do in your spare time? Like, what do you like to do? I like to binge Netflix, and, you know, I walk my dog when she's willing to be walked, and I like to garden. So what do you do?
I do that too. My garden looks pretty bad, but I love to cook. And so one thing, since I've been in quarantine, I think we've only ordered out like 4 times, not including when we went up on vacation. So last night, let's see, I made a really nice big lamb biryani that took me a lot.
Wow.
It's lamb and rice from a Madhur Jaffrey Indian cookbook. And then I made my favorite summer dessert, which is on Epicurious. It's called peach blueberry cake, but it's really more like a peach blueberry deep dish pie. So I love cooking. And then of course with my dog, one of the things I really missed after the pandemic was she and I were a volunteer therapy dog team. Mm-hmm. And if you ever went to the health unit on Monday or Friday, you might have seen, you know, Pepper the dog.
Yeah.
But we would also volunteer a lot up here. We've been doing it for like 5.5, 6 years. And so now we're all in quarantine. We can't do it, except one of the programs was having children read books to dogs on at libraries and schools.
Love it.
And now we do it on Zoom. So I do that as well.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. So I've learned a lot about different people here. And maybe this wasn't networking so much, because I think when Rachel and I were interacting, it kind of seemed like I was interviewing her, because networking is going to be like, Rachel's going to be asking me like, oh, you're from Pittsburgh. Like, how did you move to Mooresville? And I would be saying that we moved here because my husband got a job working for Lowe's corporate. And then maybe Claire might be like, oh, like Lowe's corporate, I wonder what they do. And, you know, if I'm interested in talking to Jane because I have a dog, and I've thought about like pet therapy with my dog, and maybe that's something that she could talk to me about. And, you know, if people are interested in, you know, if they hear about an opportunity, an internship or a job that's in Cleveland, they now know that Alec can talk to them about Cleveland, and he can talk really high about the Cavs and maybe not so much about the Browns, but that's okay. Like, you know, if people are interested in knowing about College Advising Corps, I can say from my perspective, I've worked with a lot of students. It's a fantastic like postgraduate opportunity. But if you're interested in learning kind of about the ins and outs of it, we now know Rachel, who you can reach out to, who can speak to about that. And this is what networking is. It's really just having conversations with people about what it is that they do, you know, professionally, personally. Networking can take place in a lot of different aspects. But what I thought that we would talk about today is just kind of getting a feel for what networking can be, and resources where you can do professional networking, and then how you get that process started. So, okay. If you have any questions as we go, post them in the chat. We do have time at the end where we can get through those questions. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint part of my slides. So if you all want to go back off screen so you can be doing what you're doing, you can do that, but I welcome you to keep your screens on. Okay. So we were finding commonality, and then the next thing that we are going to be doing is, let's think about, who does your network consist of? Because I think that's the thing that I hear most oftentimes from students whenever they're trying to network or they think about networking. And I'm going to start calling it having career conversations. You know, I feel like networking people go, oh, but career conversations, I believe, sounds, you know, much more welcoming. And you can be having career conversations with a variety of people, classmates or teammates. If you are on an athletic team, or if you're not, people that you know in your volunteer experiences, in your campus groups, your roommates, your friends in the residence halls. You know, I hope that you're having conversations with them about what it is that you are interested in, or about things that are of interest to you. That's how you can learn about things. Faculty, coaches, staff. Especially if I'm talking to students who are saying that they are interested in research, no matter what type of research it is. If we're talking about psychology research, or biology research, or sociology research, or gender studies research, I hope that you are talking to faculty, because the faculty are very much in the know, and they are in that space about research that is taking place in those disciplines. Don't forget your high school friends. Don't forget your high school teachers. These are people that you network with or have conversations with, are people who you have met throughout your life. And so as we think about going forward, don't forget about the people you have met along the way, former coworkers or supervisors. I always like to say, start with the warm and fuzzies, friends of family and family of friends. So, you know, when you are home and, you know, Aunt Claire comes over and, you know, for lunch and asks you, so what are you planning on doing after you graduate? Are you able to share with her? And then do you say to Aunt Claire, like, hey, would you know anybody who works in this particular, you know, type of work? Because you never know who knows somebody who you might be interested in having a conversation with. And you're not going to know unless you're starting to formulate those ideas and tell people what it is that you're interested in. Davidson Alumni. Going to spend a lot of time talking about that today. Whoops, looks like I went backwards. Okay. And then any others that you can think of. And we'll be going forward with looking at some ways that you can connect with people that you don't yet know, connect with people that you don't have more intimate possible relationships with, and connect with people who aren't necessarily Davidson alums. But let's start with Davidson Alumni. As Jane and I have been repeating throughout this series, and as I hope that you are, you know, are hearing, In your time at Davidson, you have a wealth of alumni who you can be talking to, and who are very interested in talking to you. And so 3 resources that I definitely recommend with regard to interacting with alums. We have referred to in the past a fantastic resource that we have called DCAN. And as we are moving forward into the summer months, DCAN is being rebranded into this amazing new platform that we have called Davidson Connect. And what I'd like to do is just show you this particular resource, if it's going to work for me. And if the internet would like to catch up. Okay. So this is Davidson Connect. Davidson Connect is actually, it's a resource where alums can come to connect to each other. So you'll see here, you know, alumni can be posting photos of particular, you know, types of events or alumni events that they've attended, information about particular events that are taking place either on campus or off campus, jobs and internships. This is a feed that actually you can see over here, recent jobs that have been posted. I can let you know that this particular, that jobs are actually pulled from the Handshake platform. And so these particular positions that you're seeing here are pulled straight from the Handshake platform that you are, that you're certainly aware of. Groups, first section that I would recommend, you know, going to. There are lots of different groups with respect to particular areas of interest. There are lots of different class groups that we have to scroll through. And unfortunately, we have to scroll through all of them to get to the particular industry groups that I'd like to show you. Well, maybe that's not working too much. But there are particular groups that you can go to. Arts and entertainment technology, business and finance. You can search for particular groups. So if I go up here, education, government, and public service, I think would definitely be an interest to people here. I know that there is also a law industry group network. So this is an area where you could find particular alumni, join this group who have an interest in that particular industry. Then there is also this mentoring section. And mentoring is a great place for you to find mentors by particular industry, by education. If there's a particular person that you are trying to find specifically, you can do that as well. So if we look for find your own mentor, you can search by a person's name if you want to see if they are involved here. You can look by their other education. So if you were looking at people who have gone on to particular graduate programs, law schools, medical schools, and you wanted to talk to them about their experience at that particular program, you could search there. You can also search by work experience, searching in particular industries alphabetically, searching by particular job functions, etc. You can see over here, this little flag, willing to help, willing to help. This indicates all of the Davidson alumni who have said that they are willing to be career resources for Davidson students and other alums. And so if we view a particular person's profile, it will indicate over here how this person or how this alum is willing to help others. So it looks like Karen is willing to help make introductions to connections of people that she knows. It looks like Karen is also interested in having a career conversation. And if you wanted somebody in this industry to review your resume, she would very much be interested in doing that too. And then it's very, streamlined. I'd like her to help have a career conversation. And then this is where I'll say hi. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Requesting mentoring. People have been asking what's the difference between help and mentoring. Help is more of a one-off type of experience. I am looking to have a one-time career conversation with you. I'm looking to see if you might, be able to review my resume. Requesting mentoring is if you are looking to perhaps establish a long-term mentor type of relationship with this particular person. And again, you can indicate that here as well. Okay. Okay. So that is Davidson Connect. The next place that you can also find Davidson alumni, reverting back to our topic of conversation on Tuesday, is in LinkedIn. In keeping pace with Jane's definite recommendation is, making sure that your LinkedIn profile is robust and has information in it. There are lots of ways that you can find particular people or find Davidson alumni in LinkedIn. The biggest resource that I recommend is, or the biggest strategy, excuse me, is going to the Davidson College Davidson College LinkedIn page, excuse me. Lots of good information here. Clicking on the alumni section, you can see that we have over 17,000 alums in LinkedIn. And you can search by a variety of different topics. You can search by where they work. So if there was a particular company or organization that you were interested in finding out, are there Davidson alumni there? You can search for where they live. If you are thinking of relocating to a particular city, here or overseas, domestic or overseas, and you are interested in seeing if Davidson alumni are there, you can search that way. You can also search by particular title. I'm going to search one that I know we will find many, because there are many different Davidson alums who work in law. And you can find particular people who are working in a job or who are working in a particular industry that is of interest to you. So lots of different ways that you can find alumni through this particular section on LinkedIn. Okay. Finally, I also wanted to show this particular resource that I like. This is from the Davidson College Alumni and Families Department. There are regional chapters of the Davidson Alumni Association located in different states across the country. Looks like we need to find some people a little bit more in the Midwest. That would be awesome if we could find some people, in Hawaii. But you can, if you'll see the regional chapters, you can find information about events that they are having. You can reach out to the particular chapters, the leadership. So if you are moving to Atlanta, there's a strong contingency of Davidson alums in Atlanta. And if I was moving to Atlanta, this would probably be one of the first resources that I would reach out to, is to connect with Davidson alums who are in that particular area. Okay. So these are definitely 3 resources that I recommend to people to become familiar with, to start having conversations with other Davidson alums, especially with regard to Davidson Connect. People who are in that particular resource in the mentor section have indicated that they are definitely willing to be having that conversation. And what I have found is that Davidson alumni overwhelmingly are always willing to take time to talk to other alums or talk to current students about, and then fill in the blank. You have a strong alumni network that I highly encourage you to take advantage of. In many particular career panels or career conversations that we have had where we have featured Davidson alumni, when the topic of how their professional development took place, the vast majority of times it was because of having a conversation with an alum. It was because of reaching out to a particular alum that either helped them get interested in a particular field or helped them develop professionally in that particular field. So huge alumni connections. But what happens if you're looking for people who are outside of Davidson? Right? Maybe you're looking just to talk to people outside of Davidson. You're looking to talk to people just to kind of well-rounded, or maybe you're not able to find somebody who is working in your areas of interest who is a Davidson alum. Doesn't mean that there aren't people that you can be having conversations with. Professional associations is definitely a resource that I encourage people to start with. If you are not familiar with professional associations, for every industry that is in existence, there is a professional association that works on behalf of that industry. And professional associations serve as kind of the, sort of the all-encompassing go-to resource that represents that particular profession. So whether you are talking about international lawyers, whether you are talking about counselors, whether you are talking about mall Santa Clauses, there is a professional association that represents that particular industry. And the Association for Mall Santa Clauses is located in Michigan. I'm not making that up. The benefits of professional associations, whenever you are joining or you become a member, they will oftentimes have directories, so you can easily access contact information for other members in that association. They will host conferences, they will host webinars, they will host national and regional programs. Many times a particular association, professional association, the National Association is also going to have regional, either by states or by cities, where they will have smaller regional types of associations. For example, I am a member of the National Association of Colleges and Employers, but there is also under that umbrella the North Carolina Association of Colleges and Employers that lets me network specifically with other North Carolina colleges and universities and North Carolina specific employers. Here's a hint. Memberships, oftentimes for professional associations, they will offer student memberships that will be significantly less expensive than the regular professional membership. I have seen students join professional societies or associations for upwards of $25 to $30 as compared to the $200 to $300 that sometimes it can be membership for other professionals. So consider doing that. And that membership oftentimes is going to afford you the same types of resources that you would have if you were a professional member. They just recognize that the student budget is a little bit more constricted. So how do you find professional associations? Oftentimes I'll Google. This is where Google can be my best friend. I was working with a student who was interested in, in international law. And so I Googled international law associations, came across the International Association for Lawyers. So you can Google a particular industry plus the word association to find particular societies or organizations that you can research. This particular website right here, JobStars, actually compiles a pretty extensive list of professional associations by industry or by particular job type. So everything from accounting to zoology. If you are looking for geographic connections, Chamber of Commerce can be a great way to find out about companies, organizations, etc., that are in a particular city. Chamber of Commerce kind of works on behalf of that particular region to promote that region to people who may be considering relocating there, businesses that may be considering relocating there. And so when you Google, again, a particular city plus the words Chamber of Commerce or a particular region plus the word Chamber of Commerce, you will find that particular organization that, again, is going to have membership directories for you to find people who are working in particular companies or industries of interest. Look for local groups. Very oftentimes, young professionals, there is a young professionals group for Charlotte. When I lived in Pittsburgh, there was a young professionals group for Charlotte. And so that can actually be a way that you can connect with other people, perhaps recent college graduates who work in a variety of industries. Or you can see if there is a particular professional local group geared towards a particular industry. Meetup.com. I know that that sounds like a dating website. I assure you that it's not. Meetup.com is actually a website where you can go to find particular groups of people who meet up for a variety of reasons. So these can be for personal or professional. You may have, I know that there's a Charlotte running club, for example. There's also, the Charlotte young, professionals in marketing. And these are particular opportunities to, used to be meeting up in person. I don't think any of us are doing that right now, but it can be a great way to meet other people who share that particular personal or that professional interest. And also don't dismiss, I think you've caught this theme that we've been talking about throughout this series, how much volunteering can be important to you. I know that Jane and I have talked about marketing it and promoting it on your job applications, but also seeing volunteering as a way just to connect with others. You never know if you are volunteering at a soup kitchen or a food pantry, who is standing beside you, who is helping you, complete those meal orders, and you get into a conversation with that person and you might find out that they work in an organization or they work in an industry that's of interest to you. And that can be a great opportunity for you to ask, I'm really interested in what you've told me about your work with International House of Charlotte. Is there a way that maybe we could talk sometime? I'd love to learn more about that. So these are just 3 examples of how you can be finding particular opportunities to meet with people who are outside of Davidson. So where does it start? It starts with an email. It can start with a conversation face to face. I think that's ideal. But if you're reaching out to somebody through LinkedIn, or you're reaching out through the regional chapters or through Davidson Connect, it starts with just a very brief email. So here's a sample of an email put together that you can see is short and concise. I am no way talking to Ms. Smith about asking for help finding a job or can she get me a job. I am indicating where I have, located her information, why I'm reaching out to her, and just very clearly and concisely stating, I'd like to be able to chat with you for a 30-minute conversation. Great suggestion from Jane in our last meeting to include a profile of a link to your LinkedIn profile so that Ms. Smith can check me out, to see what my professional background is. And, that can kind of, help generate her interest in possibly getting back in touch with me. So you're going to send that email and you're going to anticipate, receiving that particular request to meet with you, and then having a conversation about fill in the blank, about their particular company, about their particular organization, about their job, about their professional development. But then it continues with keeping in touch. And this is where I think the nuance of networking and having career conversations should really be understood. When you are having and after you have a conversation with somebody, always send a follow-up email thanking that person for their time. If you haven't connected with them on LinkedIn, make sure that you do that after you have that conversation with them. And then stay in touch with, I guess, what I called self-initiated action items. So after that conversation that you have with them, if you read an article that you think might be of interest, if you, are in a new role since the last time that you have met with them, if you'd like to mention that you met with someone that they referred you to, you can always stay in touch to keep them abreast of what it is that you are doing. That helps get over that hurdle that I'll often hear students ask is, well, how do I reach out to somebody who I haven't talked to in like 5 years? That can certainly be done. That's not a hurdle that you can't overcome. But if you have remained in contact with them, then that'll help avoid that altogether. And the biggest thing that I recommend to people is keep track of your interactions. Keep track of people who've referred you. Keep track of any outcomes. So I don't care if you use a Google Doc, a spreadsheet, if you go old school and get out a paper planner, there's an app for everything. So there are definitely apps to help you keep up with, I guess an electronic Rolodex, Jane, is what we would be talking about here. You want to keep track of who it is that you have had conversations with, especially when you get to the point where you are actively job searching and having career conversations with people. You want to be able to easily see who it is that you have met with, what was the outcome of that particular meeting. If they've referred you to somebody, who it is that they referred you to, keeping track of how you have reached out to people and the result of that particular outreach. I have breezed through this and I have heard crickets. So I am going to stop sharing my screen. I didn't lose anybody, I don't think. I want to know what questions you guys have about networking. And I'm going to take a huge drink of water.
Can you think of any groups in Charlotte that might relate to, you know, international careers, for example? I'm thinking World Affairs Council of Charlotte.
World Affairs Council that you've mentioned. International House is one that I tend to, you know, they have a lot of volunteer opportunities.
But even when Rachel was mentioning her work with high school students and advising, I was thinking, you know, the World Affairs Council of Charlotte, one of the big things they do, and they have corporate sponsors who are always on board with this, is they invite high school students when they met in person to their lunches and things. And they're really interested in doing that kind of, you know, outreach. It's one of those things where, let's say you're even looking to kind of like pitch an idea like, hey, Jane, you know World Affairs Council of Charlotte. You can do a little research. You won't find me on their board, but you will find one of our other professors, Professor Vikram Kumar in the econ department. So you could either write me or Professor Kumar, and, you know, do you have some ideas on how I might connect with World Affairs Council of Charlotte? And if I could click on and see your LinkedIn, or if you tell me a little bit about yourself in the email, you know, just off the top of my head, I would say, wow, you know, if Rachel were interested in, let's say, you know, right now we're working through the approval process of 4 academic credit internships for the fall and spring semesters. But I could see something with, say, someone like Rachel's background helping with their high school outreach and programming, because I know that they have money for it, and I know it's a big strategic priority for them. It's international and it's local. And that also goes back to another thing I think that we've repeated a lot, Kelly, is that local is international and international is local.
Right. It's all building blocks. Yes. Yeah, that's a great example of how, you know, just reaching out to somebody and just sort of springboarding from there. And the more that you can, you know, have a conversation with that person, it's not an interview. Like I said, that interaction that Rachel and I had maybe took on more of like an interview, but this is a like, oh, you're interested in that? Tell me more about that. Like the more that you can share with the person that you're having a conversation with, and the more that they share with you, when they walk away from that conversation, feeling like, you know, that I really enjoyed that conversation. They're going to be inclined to want to, you know, when they meet somebody for lunch, like, oh, you know, I you know, just spoke to Rachel Carpenter. Like she's, you know, really interested in, you know, aspects of working with high school students. And I know this particular initiative that we have, I think that she might be really interested in talking to you about it. So, yeah. Kazi, did you have a question? I saw you raised your hand. That's really cool. I'm just used to just blurting out. I'm sorry. That's how our staff meetings go. So what was your question?
Yeah, my name is Kazad.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
I had a question about how to keep networking from being too transactional, especially like now, because when you network, it's going to be most likely emails and Zoom calls, and it may be more formally set up versus just getting coffee with someone. So what suggestions do you all have to keep the conversation going over a long period of time without being more like, oh, can you review my resume? Can you review my cover letter, and keep it less kind of like the burden on them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, I think like I was referring to in the PowerPoint is, you know, connecting with them on mutual interests. So say that we have that, you know, that 30-minute conversation. And then, you know, you send that follow-up. So you are thanking them for the time that they spent. If they recommended to you, like a great question that I always encourage people to ask in that career conversation is, do you know of other people who I could be speaking to? Like you mentioned that you volunteer at this organization, or you mentioned that you interned or you worked for this organization prior to coming here. Would you know of others who I could maybe speak with? And then, you know, if they refer you and you get in touch with that particular person, then, you know, coming back to that person, hi, you know, just wanted to let you know, I appreciated, you know, the referral to, you know, Sally Smith. She and I are chatting. I'm looking forward to it. And then just, you know, just keeping in touch as you go along. You know, just wanted to reach out to let you know I'm taking this course this semester. It really resonates with, what we talked about with regard to my interests and such. Really resonates with the type of work that you are doing. Just any ways that you can just, keep that conversation going. In this virtual world, I think it can be appropriate to offer when you want to meet up with somebody. I'm open to having a phone or, a virtual conversation if in person is not going to work. I've done it with students because I know you all are just experiencing extreme Zoom fatigue. It's real. I know that I'm experiencing it. And so some students have taken me up on the offer, like, yeah, you know what? I'd really like to just have a phone call. And so just giving them that option. Jane, do you have any other thoughts to add? Because I think it's a great question to keep it from being like this, like, okay, I did that, check. I did that, check. It's developing that relationship.
And the other thing is, following what your interests are. So, Kaysa, in a way, you're a perfect example because you're working this summer for Alliance for Peace Building, where I kind of used my network to help network you in. Well, I love the organization, and I especially love, its leader, Azra Zaya. So when I saw on LinkedIn this morning, so I was looking for someone whom Kelly referred me to as part of a network. And I wanted to, check out this person on LinkedIn. And then I saw, well, Azra Zaya was speaking with the Council on Foreign Relations and Cal Penn and other people about diversity in foreign policy and, how kind of the issues we're talking about here in this country now, how they resonate around the world. So I, watched her hour-long presentation with the Council on Foreign Relations, which I missed. I've reposted it, I've commented it, and I dropped her a note saying, wow, this is really fascinating. We're working with I'm working with another group of people on various things about those of us who are outside the Foreign Service, about how we might want to use a transition coming up in January and see if there are opportunities to kind of reform, rebuild, tear down, look at new legislation. So we're engaging in all sorts of things where we have common interests. Now, granted, and you can do that as well, even just sometimes not just retweeting or reposting somebody, but really seeing like, what have they been doing? And now with all the think tanks online, I sent out on the Dean Rusk happenings listserv, I'm going to send it out again, a link to various think tanks that all have online events. And we have them not just for American think tanks, but now international think tanks. We're trying to grow that list. Hopping on those kind of things, especially in summer when you're not trying to keep up with all your heavy coursework, and engaging with people that way, or then writing a panelist or someone who spoke or looking them up online and saying, what you said really resonated with me. I'm working on something. I'd love to, maybe interview you for my capstone project or something like that. It's always reasonable to ask anyone to give you 30 minutes. If it's a cold call, 15 minutes in the Zoom world is a good start. If you ask for 15, they'll probably give you 30. So there are all different ways to interact, but I'm really big on like the think tanks, the webinars, and the events. I've been doing them constantly throughout the summer, sometimes engaging with people I know, and sometimes making new connections. Like I just got involved, for instance, with Ambassador Bonnie Jenkins, whom I'd heard of but didn't know her. We were on a virtual panel together. I sent her a note afterwards about how much her remarks resonated with me, how interested I am in what she's doing with her organization, Women of Color Advancing Peace and Security. And then I got networked in with that group last night to help them set up a new forum on international development and international affairs careers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's hard if you're an introvert. I try to be mindful of that because I'm an extrovert with a capital E. And I know it's really hard for introverts. And I'll tell you, even for extroverts, there are times where I don't want to talk to anybody. Mm-hmm. But you just gotta keep putting yourself out there more and more now these days.
Yeah. And I think if somebody, if you tend to have, if you have introverted, tendencies, the idea of talking to a complete stranger, even though they may be a Davidson alum, but to you, they're a complete stranger and you only have this campus as a connection. I recommend, start with those warm and fuzzy contacts, start with faculty who and asking them if they know somebody. So that can kind of hopefully help to make that, that jump to talking to somebody who you haven't met before, a little bit less, stressful. I mean, I'm an extrovert introvert. So if I can talk to somebody who I can meet through a mutual friend, that works for me. When I go to conferences and we have, you know, the meet and greet hours, I mean, I have to like give myself a pep talk and walk into that room and just like find the person who I can tell is feeling just as awkward as I am, and let's just have a conversation. And then once I'm in there, you're like, okay, this is fine, you know? I mean, and start with the, you know, oh, you're from Cleveland? Hey, I'm from Pittsburgh. We're not supposed to like each other. Like that can sort of break the ice, you know? It doesn't have to be this, you know, let's start in with the heavy stuff type of conversation. So speaking about, you know, questions to ask, some of the resources, and I'll include links in the follow-up email. A lot of times people will ask, like, what types of questions do I ask? In Handshake, the networking guide that's in there provides a lot of good different types of questions that you can ask when you're having a career conversation. When I was playing around on LinkedIn, and in about 5 seconds, I got to the Davidson College and the alumni section of that page. There is a resource also in Handshake, Wildcat Ready LinkedIn, and that's a series of actually YouTube videos where, just like this, it walks you through how to effectively use LinkedIn to connect with people. So those resources will be helpful as well. Any other questions?
Yeah, and think about using your Davidson domains too, if there are ways that you want to engage with people on like work you're doing and such. For instance, you know, I had some students who took advantage of doing like digital timelines through DLI for a class I was teaching last spring. So, you know, one of the things I've been doing is kind of saying, hey, look at this really interesting timeline that digital timeline that a student did on US relations with Iraq. It's a really great, fun visual resource. And I was able to, like, you know, talk with him about that, but also push it out towards some groups and nonprofits that were really interested in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but I know what you mean, Kaizad. It can really feel sometimes transactional, and that's kind of, but it's not. It is really about developing relationships. There's a transactional element to every relationship, but also I think, again, one of the huge advantages you have at Davidson is that the reputation of the college and the alumni themselves, when they're putting on those, you know, helper badges on Davidson Connect, they really mean it. People love telling you what they're passionate about. I could go on and on and on about why I love the Foreign Service, why I love my humanitarian career in the Red Cross, why in my last job I felt cultural heritage took on such an important human rights, political policy dimension, aside from the fact that it's just really cool to see old stuff. You know, I can really wax eloquent about why I love working at Davidson and why I believe in this institution. I tell people, like, you know, I came here to live my values, and I really appreciate being able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, you got me started.
I know, right? Yes. So I think the other thing to be aware of that I kind of referenced is that this is how a lot of conversations are going to be taking place. And so that can, I think, contribute in some ways. Again, I'm going to put on my communications major hat here, is, you know, we don't have the opportunity to be in person where we can feed off of, like, you know, those nonverbal cues when you're having a conversation with somebody. You know, I could show you if I took a screenshot of, you know, the CCD team and our staff meetings, like, we're all, I mean, we're just engaged and fun, and that's our personality, but our Zoom personalities do not reflect that. And so just, you know, kind of being aware that there is a little bit of this barrier, and trying to, I don't want it to be a barrier to opportunities that you may have to interact. You know, many of the programs that we're going to be doing, not many, all of them, the programs that we're going to be doing this coming fall, and very well likely into the spring, but that remains to be seen, are going to be virtual. And we're going to be having Davidson alums who are going to be, you know, meeting with you and talking with you in this format. And I don't want you to lose the aspect of that personal, that they are so excited to be talking to you and having conversations with you about their experience, both the process of getting to where they are now and then where they are and what their future ideas are. So I think if you just, put it from the perspective of not necessarily what's in it for me, but I'm really interested in getting to know you, they're going to be more inclined to want to get to know you because you're not seeing it as a means to an end. So.
Even when they know that you are seeing it as a means to an end. But that's okay. That's what they expect. It's like when I used to have to do fundraising. People know I'm there to ask them for money. So, I mean, but it's about the relationship. That's why they call it development, not fundraising.
Not fundraising.
I was going to add one more thing. What was it? Oh, and that's it. Oh, I know. Oh, again, I want to go back and repeat. You will now have a comparative advantage that you did not have pre-pandemic. Because it does not matter if you're sitting in Davidson or you're home in Concord or me in Arlington, Virginia. If you want to engage in an international internship or experiential learning opportunity, I don't care where you're sitting. And people always think I'm in Davidson because of the background I put on.
Yeah.
People don't, you now have an advantage. Whereas before I would have been saying, let's put the American University and GW students at the top of the pile. Also because I knew they had classes scheduled in the evening sometimes, which kind of bumped down Georgetown. So, but now you have this advantage, and with also more opportunities to do asynchronous learning too. That's the other thing. If you get a foot in the door, they may ask you about your availability. Know your flexibility. Usually what they just want is dependability. That if you say, I can't work mornings, but I can work, these times in the afternoon, this time in the morning, or I'll make it up in the evenings. That's okay. They just want to make sure that you're going to fulfill it and get work done.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay.
I
Yes,
did have
Claire.
a question.
Sure.
I wanted to ask, and you had mentioned at the beginning a little bit about just personal networking versus career networking. And I wanted to ask, recently I had done some networking related to grad school and jumpstarting a career and transitions like that. And personally, I am curious to know about women who are mothers or want to have a family, and I'm curious to know about how the timeline can work with that. So I guess my question is it appropriate to ask about, do you have a family and how has your career played into that? Is it appropriate to do that when you're networking?
Yeah, and I'd love to have more men answer that. I'd love to have more men ask that question, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah.
So guys, I'm telling you, you're interviewing with a woman and you ask about work-life integration or work-life balance, all of a sudden your stock has gone blue chip.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. When I was in the federal, yes. So please, but work-life integration is a great way to put it. We're used to hearing work-life balance, but sometimes I like hearing work-life integration because I think there is no balance. There's just integration. Yeah. There's no balance to anything anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, so yes, Claire, I mean, in answer to your question, that's definitely appropriate because you're coming from a place where that's something that you want to consider. And so, you can ask that, I'm kind of curious about, to borrow Jane's phrase, work-life integration. A family is something that I see in my future. Can you talk about either your particular role or this particular industry, and it's, I don't mean to say welcoming of it, but it's, how does it embrace that? So, yeah, ask, and the questions that, the networking guide that I was talking about, like when you have an opportunity to talk to somebody about a particular career path, like ask about the good and ask about the bad. I think a way to, is, so what are the challenges of this particular position? And I flat out will ask, like, what are parts about your daily life that, your daily chores that you don't really enjoy doing so much? Because one, what they may not enjoy doing, I may really like to do. And two, if I don't like to do it, but I'm hearing that they spend a lot of their time doing that, then maybe that's me not really understanding like how this particular career path may work. And so I want to know all of it. I had a career conversation when I was in my senior year of college at Pitt, and it was with a, TV journalist, and that is why I'm here talking to you guys instead of working in TV journalism, because it made me realize, like, and I went beyond asking about the skills because I knew that I had the skills, but I wanted to know, like, what is this field like? And it's very different than what you see. So I was like, nope, that's not for me. So I pivoted in another direction. So, yeah. Okay. I'm going to sign off. It has been great seeing you guys. I hope that this has been helpful and informative to you. The recording ends and the meeting ends, but definitely Jane and I are available. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. Schedule an appointment, send us an email. You know, I am always happy to talk to, you know, to students and to alums just about career ideas. This is my job. That's what I like doing. So I'll send you the follow-up email that'll have links to those resources and Handshake I talked about, as well as this recording. And otherwise, Jane, it was good to see you. I hope that we will be seeing each other. I'm going to miss our Tuesday, Thursdays get together. We're going to have to schedule a virtual lunch or something. So, all right.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking
Okay.
forward to seeing all of the students here as well as others. So, you know, tell people to look at the recordings and they can contact Kelly and me.
Yes, definitely. All right. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week and the weekend. Take care, guys. Bye.